we're back for part two. Part two. To a part three, kind of. We're going to have three of these. I only intended on doing one of these guys. Just one. And I already did this video. And I never released it. And here's why. So when all this came down, if y'all don't know what I'm talking about, when all this came down over the MLF on Minnesota and them getting tickets, right? Two of the guys got tickets and nothing really happened. Now, we're not going to go into that because there's still some people making some comments over that, and I don't think they're really understanding what's going on here. So I'm going to break it down a little bit more. I did a whole video on it, and I liked my video. It's great, and I'm going to release it last. The reason is because then some people on social media started releasing the press release, and I started seeing these comments, and it kind of got into two comments, right? Like there were two different scenarios on which people jumped on. One of them was like every angler should know every single rule, right? And at first it makes sense, right? Like that comment is a understandable comment made by people until you break it down, right? And I broke it down really easy, and everyone agreed, like, right? I mean, it's impossible to know all these rules, and it's not state laws, it's rules of the lake. And I'm over here fishing for the Bassmaster Open, practicing for the Red River. It starts tomorrow. And even on the Red River, like there's off-limit stuff to these private places. They're not marked. You would just have to know. How do I know it? And I asked my buddy, I'm like, how do you know? He's like, oh, the tournament let us know. I'm like, exactly. They're not marked. You would never know that you're not supposed to fish in there, except the tournament organization let us know these things. They try to let you know these stupid, I wouldn't call them stupid, they're kind of stupid, these stupid little regulations, little things that are unique to that body of water. Sometimes they are state law, right? But then what was funny is you have people talking about state law, that we should know all these rules, but then you got half the people going, that's a stupid rule. So, and why I bring up the stupid rule part is, if it's a stupid rule, it's a rule that really doesn't fit most people's like fishing scenarios, right? Like they're not common to this rule or law because it's not normal. So yes, it's easy to say you should know it or like you should look it up, but why would you look up something that's not normal, right? So if you're allowed to do this at your state, you wouldn't think to go to another state and be like, nope, can't do that, right? It's very hard. I'm just saying it's very hard. And on the outside, yes, we should read every single rule before we go to a state or a law. Like no one does that, guys. I'm just being honest with you. And so I get that they got tickets, right? I understand that. But here's where I'm going to say. So there was two things. One, you should know every law. And the second one was this. It was, well, they should be DQ'd. Well, listen. You don't want to get me started about who I think should be getting DQ'd for breaking rules, okay? That is a long list of people that do not get DQ'd, okay? Especially in that organization. Just going to throw that. And if you're thinking, I'm telling you this right now, if you're sitting there going, oh, Todd, I know who you're talking about. No, you don't. No, you don't. I don't even want to go down. Why am I going to go down this route? I'm just going to say this. And one day it'll come out. There is a long, giant list of things that have happened in that organization and other organizations that you will never hear about. Now, why don't the guys come out there and talk about it? Like, why don't professional fishermen talk about it? It's just this weird deal, man. It's just like we try a little bit in the sense of, if you do come out there and then it's called hate, you know, we're hating on these guys, we're jealous of these guys. No, man, it's like, because they have said things to the organizations, tournament directors, and nothing happens over and over and over again. So at some point in time, you just shake your head and going, what else am I supposed to do? It'd be like you This is how I always put it. It'd be like you going to a cop and saying, hey, that guy's stealing, right? And they catch him stealing. And then you go to court. And you got video of him stealing. And the judge just looks at it and goes, nah, he's not stealing. He's like, no, I got video. It's right there. Yeah, no. Case closed. And you're like, well, wait a minute. That's what's going on sometimes. So guys don't speak up. They don't want a black eye on the sport. It's these little, I wouldn't even call them gray areas, but it's just not talked about. And so it's just tough, right? And so I am one of the guys that will always just be like, man, like I don't like that part of it, right? I mean, I think people should get DQ'd for breaking rules. Not rules, certain rules. I'll be honest, like certain rules are different to me. I don't think you should be DQ'd if you start your engine idle for 5 seconds and forgot your life jacket, right? I don't think that's not, to me, there's a difference between breaking a rule and gaining an advantage. Okay. And maybe I should do a whole video on that, but me forgetting, or anybody for that matter, forgetting to put their life jacket on for like 3 seconds, right? And then putting the life jacket on, I don't think that guy should get DQ'd. He's not trying to gain an advantage. It's just forgot. It's a rule. It's not a state law. It's not a law. You wouldn't get a ticket for it. It's just a rule. And I agree with that. And there's certain rules that are there that you could break. And I think the tournament director would probably look at that as like, man, misunderstanding, all sort of things. Now, doesn't mean people haven't got DQ'd for that for the day. When I say DQ, like lost their day, like it's happened, okay? But I don't stress over that stuff. Like I don't even look at someone that missed a rule violation for a certain thing. And I'm not going to bring up the whole Trey Swindle deal, but I mean, it's an insurance thing. And I'm not even going to get into the whole, man, he should have known better. Dude, that just sucks. That sucks, man. I feel bad for the kid, right? I mean, whatever. I'm not going to get into that. Like that's not a cheating. I wouldn't DQ the guy for that, right? I mean, I know it says it in the rules, but man, it's just, that's a tough one. I'm just going to say. So I'm more at the like advantage part. Now, get back on track here. The MLF part. They got tickets for having 2 lines in the water. I saw this when they did this from the beginning. Not the video, but when I saw that they had put in certain rules about you can get off on a dock or you can leave your boat on the bank and get one. And I was like, okay, they're trying to bring a little spice to the sport. I get it. Like, I don't really mind it that much. Like you can do it one time and you can get a penalty and stuff like that. The problem is man, you can't just, I know you're trying to bring up some like different kind of, drama to the sport. The problem is that drama leads to like illegal activity, right? Like maybe you're not allowed to ever get off on the bank where you're at. I mean, maybe that's trespassing. I know a lot of people talk about docks. There's another one that's a gray area, because certain docks on certain lakes you can get out on. Now, dock owners do not want to hear this, but I have talked to certain authorities, and you don't sometimes, it's a really gray subject about, it's kind of like putting up a bulkhead. Like I know on Lake Livingston, Trinity River Authority, TRA, owns the right to your easement on the water. So you don't own that bulkhead. You might have to put it in there and stuff. And when they say own it, like, they have a right to it. Well, you don't own that water either. And if you put a dock out there, it's kind of a public dock. This is going to throw everyone for a loop when I tell you this. You really can go on other people's docks. Like, it's not illegal. Now, they will never say this. They will never advertise this. They recommend you not do this. But when you put a dock on public water like that, even though it's yours, it's a very gray area. I'm just telling you this. I've been told by this. Now, it's not every lake is like this, right? There's certain, like I said, they own like 5 to 10 feet of that easement. If you ever went on the Guadalupe River, if anyone y'all have ever like tubed down the river, you know that you can't step 1 foot on that land. Like, those people own that land all the way up to the water. It is theirs. Like, you can, like, trespassing instantly. So like I said, every lake is different. Every place is different. What they did was, yes, it is an advantage to throw 2 lines out there, okay? And in their rules, you're allowed to. You're allowed to. You can say what you want to about DQing someone. I'm all, man, listen, it pains me to say this. You can't DQ them. And here's why. 2 reasons, okay? Be sure. I don't even want to do the second reason because this is the most important one, and I want you guys to really listen to this. It's in the rules that you can do this, okay? Plain and simple. Doesn't matter if it's against the law. It's in the rules you can do this. So you can't DQ them. Now you're going to say, well, wait a minute. There's this state law thing, and there's this whole thing about, like, you must follow all the state laws. You're correct. You have to. I'm just telling you, this has been going on with the whole culling a dead fish in Texas, okay? I've told them for years, we are not allowed to cull dead fish in Texas. But I've asked them about when I fished the tour and other things. I'm like, I just assumed you could never cull dead fish, and I found out one time you could, under their rules. Their rules state that this is exactly how it's been said to me. We do not have a rule that says you cannot cull a dead fish. I said, okay, but there's a state law. So can I do it or not? Never gotten an answer. Their answer is, we, as an organization, do not have a rule that says you cannot cull a dead fish. And I'm like, didn't answer my question. And he's like, well, that's what we're telling you. So I'm like, so if I cull a dead fish in Texas, I will not get DQ'd by you. Correct. Even though it's a state law, but I must follow all state laws. Correct. But if I cull one and I weigh it in and I tell you all about it, I will not get DQ'd. Correct. Even though I broke a state law. Correct. What do I do with that? Right? So now it comes by what I always tell people, like, we're playing by 2 sets of rules. Okay? There could be me and a lot of other guys that know that's a rule, that's a state law, and that we're not supposed to do it, and so we don't do it. And then there's other guys that either don't know or don't care. Either way, they're not going to be punished for it. They won't be punished. So what are you supposed to do? I don't want to have to do, like, you're putting me in a bad spot because of this gray area. And that's my issue, is that I didn't create this. Y'all created it by, just tell me yes or no. Tell me yes or no. Now, what's funny is I can do this and not get DQ'd. If I got a ticket from a game warden, I could still get a ticket. Do I get DQ'd then? I always thought you could, but it just found out that they got tickets. They didn't get DQ'd. So they just set a precedent. They just set a precedent that it's up to their jurisdiction or decision or whatever. Now, then it's going to go into a whole spiral event. It doesn't matter what your name is, right? Does your name get you out of this? I'm not going to go down that path because that's just me making assumptions. I don't know. My point is so now I'm in this weird area, and then they're going to get tons of people in these comments. Just hear me out. Tons of people in the comments are going to be like talking about all kinds of stuff. You're going to get all kinds of comments in here about, like, rules and laws. Okay. And I have to remind everyone, there's a difference between rules and laws, okay? Just because it's a law doesn't mean it has to be a rule, and vice versa. And what I mean by that is they have rules in tournaments where you're not allowed to keep 6 fish in a live well. But if you're fishing a team event, you most certainly can put 10 fish in a live well. So you're not breaking a law, you're breaking a rule, okay? So they're not the same. And And that's where this gray area comes in. So what they did is they didn't break a rule from the tournament. They broke a law that they said you're allowed, and no one told them about that law. And that's why they didn't DQ him. And I got to be honest, I'm pains me to say it, I kind of agree with them. Like you can, like here's what happens, and this is what I always do when there's rules in tournaments. And there was one at the Bassmaster Open, and there was one the other day at the TTO. And if I have a question about it, I go straight to the tournament director. Like I walked up on stage today and asked Hank Weldon. I asked him specifically. I mean, I went into great detail about something that I thought I knew, and I was right. I was dead right. I wanted to make sure I got it from his words. That way, if something happens, right, I can go back to him like, dude, I asked you specifically about this. Okay? He was great. He explained everything. And so it's very hard then for him to go back on his word, right? Because that's what, I mean, that's why I went to him. So you can't just go back. If they allow you to do something in a tournament, it's going to be very hard for them to go back and say, oh, no, now we're going to DQ you. Right or wrong, that, I mean, it doesn't really matter what the rule was. That's what you have to do. So that's where I stand on that. It's hard to DQ those guys, and I don't think they should. I don't think they should be, because they were. It's just that gray area, and that's the problem. That's this gray area that keeps popping up, and I keep telling people, man, this gray area is so bad. I want an answer from a tournament director, right or wrong, yes or no. Tell me I can do it, or tell me I can't. I don't care. I don't want an interpretation. I don't want that. I want to specifically know. Just tell me yes or no. If you tell me no, no big deal. There will be no gray area for me. You're like, hey, you cannot do that. Fine, no big deal. Not, man, I'm gonna kind of test him out. Okay, well, if he kind of said this, so I'm gonna go about it a sneaky way. No, it's pretty simple. Hey, you can't cast there. You can't do this. No problem. If I thought I was, well, what about, I'll keep on asking him questions, you know, to see if I had another way around it. I'll keep on asking him. I'm not going to go, okay, he told me enough and I'm now going to make my own decision. No, I don't want gray area in this stuff, because gray area leads to this. It leads to speculation. It leads to guys wondering, did he cheat? Did they not cheat? Stuff on social, all this stuff that's not really good for the sport. It's not good for those anglers. It's not good for MLF. It's not good for anything. So I don't think they necessarily handled it in the wrong way, but man, they got to do a little bit more due diligence on this. Man, they can't just be so. You got to go a little bit harder with some of this stuff, right? You got to like do a little bit more research and stop living in the gray. Living in the gray, man, has made it's not a good place to live. Just telling you, as anglers, as tournament organizations, you want to black and white. Black and white is where you want to live. That way it's easy, cut and dry. Like the Trey Swindle thing. Regardless of how much I think that that's crap, it's black and white, right? And I feel, I guess the problem I have with it, he should have gotten punished. But man, to get punished like that, that's the tough part. I don't know if you give him a penalty. I don't know if you get something, but man, that's the tough part. Is total DQ, or right? Did he get just DQ'd from the whole event? And they did it on day 3. Ah, man. After being in second, that's a tough one, man. That's tough. That's tough. Some kid handled it freaking awesome, from what I heard. I wasn't there, but yeah. So, anyways, now the next one will be the first one I made, the first video. That's what we'll get into Monday, or whatever day it's going to come up next. And then hopefully after these 2 videos, you'll understand more about what I said and why I didn't go into detail, because I thought people would understand, but it was very clear to me that people didn't understand that and didn't look at it all the way through. So yeah, check that video out. See y'all guys.